My husband took a $90,000 loan in my name and said it was no big deal. When the bank called, he blamed me and said I was overreacting. I let him talk. Then I handed the fraud specialist a report of his signatures. He turned pale. The agent stood up. The bank call came while I was folding laundry. A pair of socks was in my hand. An unknown number was flashing on the screen. I answered, and a woman's voice came through, flat, professional, without emotion. We're calling to confirm your $90,000 personal loan. The socks slipped from my fingers and landed on the floor. I said, "What loan?" There was a pause, then the sound of a file opening. My name. My social. My address. It felt like someone had stolen the key to my life and quietly unlocked every door. That evening, I asked Daniel about it. He was on the couch, scrolling on his phone. Without looking up, he said, "Oh, that? It's no big deal." 90,000. I said. In my name. He laughed and shrugged. Don't overreact. We're married. What's yours is mine. It's all ours. He said it with the same ease he always had, the kind of comfort that assumed the world would naturally bend in his direction. The bank called again the next day. This time, Daniel put the call on speaker. He took over the conversation himself. "She's getting emotional," he said, as if I wasn't sitting right there. "My wife tends to exaggerate." I let him talk. I watched the way he smiled while turning paperwork with my name on it into proof of my instability. I watched how he used words to make me smaller, softer, easier to dismiss. I didn't sleep that night. The refrigerator's hum sounded too loud. Cars passing outside felt too close. My mind kept replaying the months I'd worked 2 jobs, the nights I'd maxed out credit cards to cover my mother's medical bills, the year I paid rent alone when Daniel lost his job. I opened a folder I never thought I'd need, the emails, the screenshots, the forms with signatures that were not mine. I texted a friend who worked at a credit union. She replied with one line, "Talk to a fraud specialist. Now." The week after that, we sat inside the bank branch. The carpet showed old shoe marks. A generic landscape photo hung crooked on the wall. The fraud specialist was a middle-aged woman with calm eyes, the kind that didn't need to raise their voice to be taken seriously. Daniel started again. "This is all a misunderstanding." I let him finish. Then I slid the folder across the desk. "Those aren't my signatures," I said. "And this is the report." She studied the papers, then looked up at Daniel. The color drained from his face, as if all the blood had left at once. The agent stood up. "We'll need to escalate this." The car ride home was silent. Finally, Daniel spoke. "You humiliated me." I stared through the windshield. "You already gambled my life." It was the first time my voice didn't shake. Over the next few days, the truth surfaced piece by piece. Accounts were frozen. The loan was flagged and removed from my credit report. An officer explained there would be an investigation. That night, I took my first deep breath in weeks. But grief came with it, grief for the marriage I thought was safe, for the man I believed was mine. I set the apartment keys on the table. I packed only what I needed. I didn't make a scene. I just left. I rented a small room on the top floor of an older building. From the window, I could see trees. Downstairs, in the laundry room, I met an elderly woman who chatted with me about the weather every week. One day she said, "You look okay. Tired, but standing straight." I smiled and thanked her. Small miracles often arrive like that, tucked inside ordinary sentences from strangers. Weeks later, a letter came from the bank. Fraud confirmed. The loan officially cleared from my name. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. I spoke to Daniel one last time. His voice sounded hollow. "I made a mistake." "So did I said. "I trusted you." Then I ended the call. I rebuilt slowly. I worked extra shifts. I cooked cheap soups on Sundays. I learned that silence isn't weakness, and speaking isn't war, sometimes it's just truth. One afternoon, I stopped outside the bank and took a breath. The building looked the same. I wasn't. I learned that revenge doesn't always shout. Sometimes it lives in paperwork. Sometimes it's reclaiming your name. Sometimes it's closing a door. I took the key to my life back into my own hands. And this time, the locks answered to me.